Good afternoon. This is Monday, October the 17th. This is a meeting of the Planning and Zoning Committee. I'll take a quick run through attendance. Councilmember Bradford let me know he's going to be unable to attend. I don't see Councilmember Gamble or Hager yet. Councilmember Murphy is present. Councilmember O'Connell is present. Don't see Councilmember Parker yet. Councilmember Rutherford is present. Don't see Councilmember Sepulveda or Toombs. I do see Councilmember Van Rees and Councilmember Welsh. So that gives us 6, which is a quorum. So we do have a few items that are not on consent because they have amendments. If I can get everyone's attention for a quick second. Hello. I don't want to start gaveling people, but just want to make sure Councilmember Toombs has joined us. So that's 7. Just want to run through items that are not on consent. So for item number 2, Ordinance Bill 2022-1475, I have an amendment. For items 5 and 6, Ordinance Bill 2022-1061 and 1062, Councilmember Rutherford has let me know he's planning to do a 2-meeting deferral. Or item number 13, BL 2022-1440 from Councilmember Young, there is an amendment. That one is also a disapproved bill. For item number 14, Councilmember Syracuse, Ordinance Bill 2022-1443 has an amendment. And for item number 16 from Councilmember Toombs, Bill 2022-1445, there's a substitute for that one. Do members have any other items that should be pulled from our consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and read through the items that I have on consent, and then we'll just revisit it at the end. So these are the items that are on the consent agenda. Item number 1, Resolution RS 2022-1816. The sponsors are Council Members Roten, Withers, Pulley, and O'Connell. Approves a proposal by and between the State of Tennessee, DOT, and Metro Government, acting by and through NDOT for acceptance of a construction easement and the maintenance of traffic control devices in connection with construction of a bridge replacement on State Route 1, which is also Broadway, over 11th Avenue South and CSX Railroad LM 17.29, State Project Number 19019-0223-04, PIN 124238.00. Next is item number 3, Ordinance BL, for bills on second reading, Ordinance BL 2022-1477. The sponsors are Council Members Evans, Withers, and Pulley. This authorizes Metro Government to accept a public fire hydrant assembly for property located at 3887 Central Pike. Item number 4, Ordinance BL 2022-1478. The sponsors are Council Members O'Connell, Withers, and Pulley. Authorizes Metro Government to accept a public fire hydrant assembly for property located at 245B Hermitage Avenue. Item number 7, which is the second substitute for Ordinance BL 2022-1346. The sponsors Councilmember Murphy amends portions of the Metro Zoning Code to add a definition for trade permit, which amends regulation on accessory structures, and to amend regulations on the allowed building height of single and two-family dwellings in the urban zoning overlay district. Item number 8, Ordinance BL 2022-1434. The sponsors are Councilmembers Taylor and Gamble, amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from RS5 to R6A, zoning for property located at 907 30th Avenue North. Item number 9, Ordinance Bill 2022-1435. The sponsors, Councilmember Rosenberg, amends the Metro Zoning Ordinance by changing from R40 to SP zoning for property located at Charlotte Pike unnumbered at the corner of Charlotte Pike and Old Charlotte Pike, comprising 1 acre, to permit 53 multifamily residential units. Item number 10, Ordinance BL 2022-1436. The sponsors Councilmember Rosenberg. It addresses the same property and adds materials restrictions to that SP. Item number 11, Ordinance BL 2022-1438. The sponsors Councilmember Toombs. It amends the Metro Zoning Code by changing from RS10 to R10 zoning for property located at 1813 Ashton Avenue. Item number 12, Ordinance BL 2022-1439. The sponsors are Councilmembers Taylor and Gamble. Amends the Metro zoning code by changing from RS5 to R6A zoning for property located at 725 25th Avenue North. Then item number 15, BL 2022-1444. This is for building material restrictions for a specific plan zoning for property located at 2001 Lebanon Pike and Lebanon Pike unnumbered. Let's see, item number 17, Ordinance BL 2022-1447. The sponsors Councilmember Roberts, amends the Metro zoning code by changing from IR to SP zoning for property located at 1650 54th Avenue North at the current terminus of 54th Avenue North. And then item number 18, Ordinance BL 2022-1448, the sponsor is Councilmember Roberts. This addresses the same property with materials restrictions being added to the SP. Do any of those items need to be removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, if I can call on Vice Chair Rutherford for a motion.
Thank you, Chair. I move approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Is there a second? We have a second. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So the consent calendar passes. And Councilmember Gamble's joined us. And just for everyone's edification, at the conclusion of our committee, we will have a presentation from Mr. Greg Claxton from Planning on the CIB. But so I'll add that in. So our next item that is not on the consent agenda is agenda item 2, which is Ordinance BL 2022-1475. The sponsors are Councilmembers Henderson, Pulley, Withers, and others. This approves an agreement by and between Metro Government and LAZ Parking Georgia, LLC, related to the operation and management of the on-street metered parking program within the public rights-of-way of the Metropolitan area, and approving a lease agreement to lease Metro Government property to LIZ Parking Georgia LLC to use as office space and performing these functions. Councilmember Parker's joined us. And we do have an amendment. Could I get someone to move the amendment, please? Vice Chair Rutherford.
On the amendment.
Thank you. Could I call on council to describe the amendment?
Certainly. The amendment adds a definition for the word citation, and it also adds the executed lease agreement to the legislation as Exhibit B.
Are there any other questions about the amendment? Seeing none, I will, we have a motion and a second on the amendment. All in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, so that gets the amendment before us. Can I get a motion on the bill as amended from Vice Chair Rutherford?
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second? All right, is there any discussion on the bill as amended? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, so the bill as amended is recommended. Our next items are from Vice Chair Rutherford, so these are items number 5 and 6. Item number 5 is a second substitute for Ordinance BL 2022-1061, which amends the Metro zoning code by changing from AR2A to SP zoning for property located at 1465 Old Hickory Boulevard to permit 283 single-family residential units. And then item number 6 is Ordinance BL 2022-1062, which addresses the same property with materials restrictions, and I understand that the sponsor has requested deferral, so I'll let you go ahead and move the deferral if you wish.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to add a quick note on these, as I will be moving deferral for 2 meetings, but these are the ones that had the rather lengthy public hearing the other night, or at our last meeting, and I just wanted to note that I am doing exactly as I said I would do once they passed on second reading, and I'm moving deferral for 2 meetings, the third reading. Thank you.
Wonderful. Any other discussion? Can I get a second on the deferral motion? Great. We have a motion that's properly moved and seconded for a 2-meeting deferral. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. I believe our next item is number 13, which is Ordinance BL 2022-1440. The sponsor is Councilmember Young. This one changes the zoning code by changing from IR to RS 3.75 zoning for properties located at 1322, 1324, 1326, 1330, and 1334 Plum Street at the southwest corner of 2nd Street and Plum Street. Could I get Vice Chair Rutherford, would you bring a motion on the amendment?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move the amendment.
Great, thank you. Do I have a second? Could I get maybe planning, this one is disapproved, and so could I get the planning table maybe to explain the amendment as well as the reason for why it's disapproved?
Certainly. The amendment was just correcting a typo in the bill as it was filed. There was a reference to MUIA in the middle section of the bill that should have been a reference to RS 3.75, and so that was simply a correction on that. The Planning Commission did recommend disapproval based on the land use policy on the property, which is an industrial policy which does not support residential zoning. And so the existing zoning would be consistent with the policy.
Wonderful, thank you. Could I get, Vice Chair Rutherford, would you move the, let me do it this way. Is there any discussion on any of this? So, because I was present at the Planning Commission hearing, so I'm happy to add more detail as well as planning staff, but it looks like Councilmember Van Rees has a comment. Please go ahead.
Actually, that's what I was going to ask. If you could, since you were probably present, describe what you believe Councilmember Young's intention is.
Great. So this is an area, it kind of is off of Myatt Drive. It's a little bit difficult to access. I guess I would say you go kind of almost down a little narrow street that goes into what is an industrial area. There are some there is at least one church property. There are some residential uses that are there, but those do not happen to meet that district industrial policy, even for the residences that are currently there. And so what the property owner is wishing to do for some of these lots is to go ahead and build some additional housing units on those vacant lots. Like I said, it's not quite supported by policy, but it is, I think, in having gone out to visit it myself, and I think in Councilmember Young's position that it is consistent with other uses that are already there, which are mostly residential. Go ahead.
Thank you for that explanation, and with that, I would move approval on behalf of Councilmember Young on this.
Okay, thank you. So, Councilmember, we have a motion and a second. This is on the amendment, I think. So, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? And then, oh, okay. Councilmember Van Rees, since I have your mic turned on, would you also move the bill as amended?
Please move the bill as amended.
Thank you so much. Is there a second? Great. Any discussion? We have all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so we do recommend. The next item is The next item is item number 14, Ordinance Bill 2022-1443. The sponsor is Councilmember Syracuse, who's present. This amends the Metro zoning code by changing from RS10 to SP zoning for properties located at 2001 Lebanon Pike and Lebanon Pike unnumbered to permit a mixed-use development, all of which is described herein. Could I get a motion on the amendment? All right, so we have a motion and a second. Councilmember Syracuse, I'll go ahead and call on you so you can describe this to us.
Thank you, Chair. The amendment simply facilitates the pedestrian connectivity and transit. There's currently a Wego bus stop not far from this that would be moved to a new and improved bus stop, but then those folks on that street would not have access to it. So we're going to keep that bus stop there for a short period of time until a sidewalk is built. And so this just effectuates all that. Thank you, Chair.
Wonderful, thank you. So we have a motion and a second on the amendment. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Vice Chair Rutherford, would you bring a motion on the bill as amended?
I move approval of the bill as amended.
Wonderful, thank you. And we have a motion that's properly seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Wonderful. Next is item number 16, which is Ordinance Bill 2022-1445. The sponsor is Councilmember Toombs. This amends the Metro zoning code by changing from RS10 to R10 zoning for properties located at River Drive unnumbered, as well as 1716, 1805, 1823, and 3101 River Drive, east of Hydes Ferry Road, comprising 2.14 acres. We do have a substitute on this one, so I'll go ahead and call on Councilmember Toombs. You'd like to move your substitute?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'd like to move the substitute.
Do we have a second? Wonderful. Please proceed.
So if Director Darby can remind me of what the substitute says, it removes 3101, which has a historical property on it. It limits disallow subdivision for one of the properties. Basically, it's trying to respond to some of the concerns from the neighbors about the maintaining the character of the neighborhood. So these are the conditions that myself and the developer agreed to.
Wonderful. Would you agree with that characterization?
I believe so, and it might be better if planning was to discuss the substitute.
Does planning have any comment on the substitute? I'll go ahead and call on planning. Go ahead.
Wait, let me get, oh, there it is. It was right here all along. Okay, great. So it converts it to an SP to essentially do what the councilmember said. It removes the parcel. It removes 3101 River Drive from the rezoning. And then it also restricts STR uses. No, it doesn't, sorry. It does not restrict STR. But it limits the height of dwellings to 45 feet, sets the required side yards to 8 feet, and then restricts 1716 River Road from being subdivided.
Wonderful. Okay.
I renew my motion.
All right, so we have a motion on the substitute. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Would you like to move your bill as substitute?
Move as substituted.
All right, thank you. We have a second. All in favor, please say aye. Any abstentions? Any opposition? Great. I believe that brings us to the conclusion of our regular agenda. Mr. Claxton, what would you like to? Need to come up here or? Go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, Council. My name is Greg Claxton with Metro Planning Department. I'm here with your annual reminder on the Council request and prioritization process for the capital improvements budget as we get ready for the FY 23-24 cycle. As a reminder for the public, capital improvement is anything that Metro builds or buys with a lifespan of more than 10 years and a cost of greater than $50,000. Any capital improvement that Metro makes must be included in the capital improvements budget. However, inclusion in the CIB does not provide funding. You need some other council action to do so. The CIB only lays out what Metro could spend money on. For a little bit of context, last year's CIB included over 1,000 requests, requesting more than $17 billion over the next 10 years. In the middle, in the blue boxes are sources of funding for different projects, and then on the right side in the green boxes are the overall capital improvements budget cycle starting in October and ending every June when council votes to adopt the CIB. For the council request process, council staff distributed lists of your FY23 projects by council district about 2 weeks ago. Those projects are, your review of those projects and requests for new projects are due by October 31st. Throughout November, planning will distribute all the projects to departments to review and compile their comments back to you for a report that is due back to y'all December 16th. This is a very short time frame for a lot of mapping, a lot of project review, a lot of cost estimation. Anything you can do to get your requests in by October 31st helps ensure that departments have adequate time to review anything new. And then all of this is building towards council's prioritization of your requests. That usually happens at a joint meeting of budget and finance and planning, zoning, and historical, usually mid to late January, so that you can provide a council prioritization alongside other views of prioritizing these projects. The spreadsheets that you've gotten include a list of all of the projects associated with your district, either because they're located in your district, in some cases they serve your district, or you may have prioritized them in the past. For each one, if you could, mark each one as keep or not needed. Not needed just indicates whether you personally need it in there. If it's a department project, the department can resubmit it. If it's a project that touches multiple council districts and one district says keep it and everyone else says not needed, it'll be resubmitted. If everyone says not needed, we will remove it. If you have any updated information, additional comments on scope or the need, you can provide that in the column marked CM comment. And then we do provide a column called flag where we convey comments from departments in the past year. Please take a look at that, as I'll touch on in a moment. It helps us keep the CIB kind of down to a more reasonable size if projects that don't need to be there do come out. If you do have new requests, mark them as new in the first column, and then give us a title, a description with a little bit more information, including specific project location. If you say widening of a road, we'll kind of do the whole road, even if you mean just kind of one little part of it. And then any explanation of need. You know, if there's a specific configuration that's a problem, if there's a gap in pedestrian crossings for a half mile or a mile or something, kind of let us know that. In December, the report back to y'all will include department's cost estimates, any comments on project status or alignment with department master plans. If they've looked at it before and they, you know, there's some decision that needs to be made before it can actually be funded, they'll try to provide that. Where a department suggests removal, planning will note that in a few different places to give you that information. In some cases, you know, projects have already been funded, but a project hasn't been constructed. You know, we try to keep those out of the CIB because it doesn't need additional funding. In some cases, a project, you know, is most appropriate to be addressed through another mechanism, like traffic calming applications to the traffic calming program. Those can come out, that sort of thing. For a little bit of context for why I'm kind of emphasizing that a few different times, this shows the number of projects in the CIB since FY18. This current council request process was started in FY19, and you can kind of see a growing every year, adding about 80 to 100 projects. And so we're kind of continually looking for ways to keep out projects that don't need to be in there. If it's a project that does need to be in there, it's absolutely add it. It's important to be there. But if it's not got any funding attached to it, if it's better addressed through something else, we do ask that you take that into consideration when you prioritize your projects. That's all I have. I'm happy to take questions, although I would suggest that any project-specific questions, feel free to email me or give me a call, and I'm happy to talk through those. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Greg. Do any of the members assembled have questions for Mr. Claxton? Councilmember Toombs? Go ahead.
With the significant increase in requests, do you see a particular trend in what council members are asking for to justify that big jump?
No, it's a lot of sort of typical district projects, some transportation, sidewalks, some park improvements, some school stuff. I think the one big growth area, I think reflecting its success is, and the public's interest is, I think we see a lot more traffic calming requests. And that again is one where, the feedback we always get from NDOT the last couple of years is, sort of work with the neighborhood to submit this as an application. In the CIB, it doesn't have the information that they need to sort of get it into the queue and process it.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
So sidewalks, is the best way to go about getting sidewalks, is that putting it in the CIB?
I would defer kind of questions on sidewalk prioritization to NDOT. Generally what we've tried to do last year, it used to be that sidewalks were just kind of spread throughout the council request area. We've now consolidated them so that they're a part of the overall walk and bike sidewalk program. They're kind of listed as examples of fundable projects. Ultimately, that's how sidewalks by and large are funded, is out of the overall allocation, not individual sidewalk segments that are listed in the CIB, although it's a way to get NDOT's attention a little bit.
I see Director Alacone is here, and so I'll call on Director Alacone in a second with the question about sidewalks, but I'll go ahead and call on Councilmember Rutherford.
Thank you, Chair. Real simple question. You mentioned the traffic calming and how you handle that when it gets included in there. Other than traffic calming, can you give us some examples of some things that are commonly put in there that you don't really want in there or shouldn't be in there?
A lot of the other ones are really varied. It tends to be something where the department, it's a little bit of an unusual project, like a weird stormwater issue on state property, or sort of a lot of peculiar things, or an issue with private property where there's not a direct way to do it. The department there's not a lot of these, but the departments will kind of give comments. We've talked to these property owners, or we've taken a look at this, and kind of say we don't see a way for it right now. I think there's a need for sort of getting y'all that information, and so that y'all can kind of work with the department to figure out what would be a viable way forward. I just don't know that kind of where it gets left in the CIB, where it doesn't have any funding attached, there's no funding attached to it, so it doesn't actually perform any role. So it's that kind of thing, a lot of varied stuff.
And then I will also add that the threshold for CIB projects is $50,000. It's $50,000. So a lot of things that do pop in from time to time that I work to kind of take out and pare back a little bit one-on-one with council members is things like crosswalks. Crosswalks are usually going to be less than $50,000 because it's basically just a can of paint and a couple of poles and a sign. But the smaller projects like that are better addressed through annual programs through NDOT or parks or whatever, like new picnic benches, things along those lines that don't meet that $50,000 threshold should not be included.
Does that answer your question? Director Alacone, since you're here, I would love to get your feedback from the department's perspective about how CIB requests for sidewalks and things of that nature work or not.
Good afternoon, Diana Alarcone. So we do have our 3-year work bike plan. So a lot of our requests that we put in the CIB is based on our walk bike plan. Plus we do have some additional sidewalks we're doing for ADA. And then I hate to say it, but we have some that are on back order, I guess is a good way to put it, that we're working pretty aggressively. We're looking at getting a lot of that caught up this year. By the end of this fiscal year, we anticipate to spend close to $34 million in new sidewalk and bikeways. So we're making a lot of progress. We were able to do that. I have to give credit to staff. Brad Freeze was very, in his experience, actually put up where we would have a list of folks that we could actually just go and kind of contractors and pick off the shelf, give them what we want, and they can go out and do it. We're calling them quick builds. It's typically where a curb is already in place, so we don't have to build out the stormwater improvements, and we can just go get those sidewalks put in. So we are being pretty aggressive this year. So outside of the walk bike, we do have ADA improvements we look at doing, as well as some stuff that will come up from our own Vision Zero assessment that we've done, that we're currently working on and have already done. Thank you.
And so if council members have sidewalk requests that are currently in the CIB, is that the best? Should they leave them in the CIB or remove them from the CIB, or do you just have an overall recommendation about that? That's what we're trying to figure out how to sync up best, is when to use the CIB to request those and when there might be another process.
I would say if it has a stormwater initiative with it, please leave it in the CIB, because that significantly raises the cost of doing it. If it has a curb where we can do a quick bill, we can roll that into our overall initiative. So that's how I would define it. But the stormwater is a much more extensive design that we have to do. It's in collaboration with water, and to make sure we build out the right infrastructure. Sometimes we actually have to expand the capacity because what's in the ground cannot handle the current water flows. So those are pretty significant projects. So we would ask for those to stay in the CIB.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. Anything else from Mr. Claxton or members? Councilmember Toombs, go ahead.
And this is for Director Alarcon. Is it possible to get a list of those quick build sidewalks or any other sidewalks per district that are part of the, what did you say, the 3-year walk bike plan?
The walk bike plan, yes, that's actually available online, but we'll be happy to do that. We can pull together what's in the walk bike plan that we're actually going to be building out this year, because the walk bike is a 3-year plan, so that's built out over the next 3 years. And then I can add in what we have currently planned in our quick build. So we can pull that together and get that out by district.
Thank you, because I've looked at the plan online. It would just be easier to have a list.
I'll be happy. Can you give me about 10 days to get that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I think that will help. Hopefully we can get that information pretty soon, and then that way we can get our submissions in or not by the 31st of this month. So, all right. Well, with that, I will declare our Planning and Zoning Committee meeting to be adjourned, and we have a few minutes of break time until the next committee, which is Affordable Housing, starts at 4:45. So thank you, everyone.